Good evening. I'm John Levin. I'm the Dean of the Stanford Graduate School of Business. I'd like to welcome you to the 2018 Excellence in Leadership Award Dinner. It's wonderful to be here in San Francisco with all of you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to give a very special welcome to this evening's honoree, Katherine August-deWilde. I think it's a great testament to Katherine that so many of us have assembled here tonight from different parts of Katherine's life. I'd especially like to welcome Katherine's family, her husband, David, who is also here tonight. And we have 5 DeWildes here tonight who have Stanford degrees. Actually, they have 7 Stanford degrees between them, but who's counting? I'd also like to have a special thank you to tonight's sponsors and to the many friends and colleagues and classmates who are here to celebrate Katherine. The program will start after dinner, so for the moment, let me just ask you to enjoy your food, and when dessert is served, we will pick up with the celebration. So thank you for being here. Good evening once again. And now we're going to get to the main reason that we're all here tonight, which is to celebrate and recognize Katherine August-deWilde. I'd like to start just by talking for a few minutes about this dinner and how this award fits in with the mission of the Graduate School of Business. The Excellence in Leadership Award was established in 2003 to highlight the achievements of a GSB alumnus or alumna who has made significant leadership contributions to the corporate world and to society. Of course, a central mission of the school is to educate leaders who will be purposeful and principled, both in their professional lives and in their contributions to society. And today, perhaps more than ever, this is the reason that students come to Stanford, to the Graduate School of Business, from around the world, from more than 60 countries. They come so they can learn how to think strategically and analytically from first principles. They come to develop the personal skills they need to lead teams and organizations, the ability to listen, to communicate, to inspire, and hopefully they leave embodying a set of values that we would like to see in all of our alumni: integrity, a concern for others, an open mind. And these are attributes that could not be more important in today's world. We're living in a time when business leaders are being called on not just to build successful businesses, but to articulate clearly the values for which their companies stand and the purpose and mission of their organizations from a social perspective. Over the next decade, business leaders in this country will have to grapple with rapid changes in technology, many of them such as changes in advances in artificial intelligence, job automation, will be coming from right here in the Bay Area, with a shift from a unipolar global world to a multipolar world, where other countries may be the drivers of innovation and entrepreneurship, and with fundamental questions about economic opportunity and equity in our organizations and in our society. And these are the issues that we're trying to prepare our students to address so they can be effective leaders in the years to come. And Katherine is an example of someone who learned those lessons well and embodies all of the attributes that we hope for. And I really could not be more proud that she is the recipient of tonight's award. I would also like to add that in the 15 years since this award has been presented, Katherine is one of just a handful of women to be recognized. Indeed, that was partly because until the mid-1970s, Katherine graduated in 1975, the GSB had almost no women graduates. And that brings me to a point that I'd like to emphasize. One of the most important things that happens to students at the business school is that they stretch themselves and they expand their sense of what is possible. The other day, I was asked to give a talk to a group of students at the business school who are the Arbuckle Leadership Fellows. This is a group of about 70 second-year MBA students who coach and mentor the first-year MBA students as part of a first-year required class called Leadership Labs. And that class culminates each December in an event called the Executive Challenge that some of you may have participated in. And the Arbuckle Fellows, who are the second-year students, go through a year-long experiential, intensive process of learning how to lead a small team of near peers. And the story I told the fellows a story. I told the fellows a story about a man who just passed away recently, a man named Roger Bannister. And Roger Bannister, as many of you will know, was a runner. He was also a physician. And in 1954, when he was a medical student in England, at the Iffley Road track in Oxford, at Oxford University, he ran a mile race in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. He was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. Now, I'm a runner, and I've lived in Oxford, and I've been many times to the Iffley Road track, and I have to say it is still impressive to see his name there. The track is named after him. To give you a sense of how impressive that achievement was, consider the following. In 1953, which was 1 year before he broke the record, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay climbed Mount Everest. They were the first people to climb Mount Everest. Over the next 60 years, more people went to Nepal and climbed Mount Everest than ran a sub-4-minute mile. But here's a remarkable fact. After Roger Bannister ran a sub-4-minute mile, the record lasted less than 2 months. 46 days later, someone else ran a 3:57 mile. And actually, later that summer, at the Empire Games in Vancouver, 2 people in one race ran under 4 minutes in a mile. Actually, and this is slightly off topic. There's a famous alumni from the Stanford Business School who later went on to make the shoes that almost all runners wear. And he was a child at the time in the audience at the Empire State Games. His father took him to see that race in Vancouver, where the first time 2 people went under 4 minutes in the mile. In the year following Roger Bannister's 4-minute mile, there were 5 runs under 4 minutes. Somehow, having a sense of what was possible actually made something possible. And I tell you this story not just because I like it, which I do, but because Katherine has been a similar sort of pioneer as a bank president and a corporate board member and a leader in finance. And she has been quite intentionally a role model and a mentor and an example to many young women and men as well. And she's done that at the business school for many, many years through our Women's Initiative, our Women in Management program, as a board member of the Clayman Institute for Gender Research, and especially this year as a lifelong learner who has returned to Stanford with David as a DCI fellow. And she's also been, in a broad sense, an enormous contributor to the school as a member of the advisory council, and I've benefited greatly from her wisdom and counsel. So thank you, Katherine, and congratulations. Okay, now I have the honor of introducing Steve Denning, who will give the real introduction to Katherine. Steve is an alum of the school, and his wife, Roberta, another Stanford alum, is here as well. Steve's a past winner of this award, and much could be said about Steve's leadership example for me personally and for many others. I will keep this very brief, using the George Shultz rule that the distinguishedness of the person is inverse to the length of the introduction. Steve's the chairman of General Atlantic. He joined it in 1980, built it into one of the leading global investment firms. He worked at McKinsey before then, and after 6 years in the Navy. He's been an incredible contributor to the business school and to Stanford. He served with Katherine on the GSB Advisory Council and for 14 years on the university's Board of Trustees, which he chaired for 5 years between 2012 and 2017, and he retired last year, and last night I was attempting to count the number of in his retirement, the number of advisory councils that he has joined at Stanford, and it was at least 5, and then I just gave up because I was exhausted. So thank you to Steve Denning for being here, and please join me in welcoming him to the podium.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, John. I'm glad that was long. You know, it's my distinct pleasure this evening to introduce Katherine. We have known each other for a long time, almost 40 years, since both of us worked in the San Francisco office of McKinsey in the late 1970s. I worked again with Katherine in 1987 when General Atlantic made an initial investment in First Republic, a new bank in San Francisco that Jim Herbert had founded and Katherine joined in 1985. As it turns out, it wasn't the last time GA invested in First Republic. We worked again with Jim and Katherine in the 2009-2010 period to acquire FRB from the Bank of America, subsequent to its acquisition of Merrill Lynch. In both cases, we were smart enough to invest, but not smart enough to hold. FRB has grown organically from an initial market cap of less than $10 million in 1985 to today, where it's the 16th largest bank in the US with a $15 billion market cap. I was also privileged to serve on the Stanford Business School Advisory Council, as John indicated, with Katherine for a number of years. Through these different experiences as a colleague, an investor, a fellow GSB alum, and a friend, I have come to understand and appreciate that Katherine is not only a pioneering business executive, but also an individual with an exceptional array of leadership talents. She is serious, focused, and determined, driving success through times of crisis and times of opportunity. Much of First Republic's meteoric growth through the years, and Jim will be the first person to confirm this, can be attributed to Katherine's tenacity and relentless drive to, quote unquote, make it happen, which is a saying that rests prominently on her desk. As Jim says, her persistence was perfection if your objective was to make it happen. She simply refuses to accept anything but the best from herself and her colleagues, and she expects that level of effort and executional excellence at all times. Bob Thornton, one of her colleagues who's in attendance here tonight. Where are you, Bob? Are you here? Thank you. Likes to tell a story about a call that his executive assistant Julie received early in her tenure. Katherine was calling to talk to Bob, but Bob was on the phone at the time. So Julie asked, "Is the call urgent?" To which Katherine calmly responded, "It's always urgent." Katherine never stops. She is intensely rational and doggedly persistent when she sets her mind to something. But she also has the creativity and the strategic vision necessary to nurture and grow an enterprise decade after decade. As a result, she has been an exceptional partner for Jim in their collective quest to build an enduring institution with a very strong service ethic. I have rarely met someone as inquisitive as Katherine. She will pepper you with questions, for hours if necessary, to the point that there is no use being oblique or ambiguous, because she's going to keep on asking you questions until she gets the information she is seeking. Now, this can be intimidating, and yet anyone close to Katherine knows that she doesn't ask questions to intimidate. She asks them to get to know people thoroughly and honestly. She is candid and direct in inquiry so that she can be insightful and empathetic in impact. Her incredible warmth and caring are reflective of a deep, genuine concern about the people around her, be they customers or employees, friends or colleagues. She is not only a strong team player, but the ultimate team builder and leader. Her ability to learn, to listen, and to understand people on their own terms has also allowed her to be an important mentor and coach. The room tonight is a testament to that. It is filled with many outstanding colleagues whom Katherine has recruited, motivated, empowered, and coached. People are making First Republic the company that it is today. She is excellent in translating her observations and insight into wise and rational advice and counsel. She always encourages people to strive for excellence and achieve goals that often exceed their own aspirations and expectations. The net result is that Katherine is admired and respected and inspires intense gratitude and loyalty. Katherine, for the exceptional leadership you have exhibited throughout your career, for the inspirational role you have played in shaping and helping others to excel, and for the extraordinary role model you have been for all of us, both in your career and your personal life. It is clear why you're receiving this Excellence in Leadership Award. It is very well earned and very well deserved. Katherine, please come up and say it to me.
Thank you. Steve, thank you. That was really a generous introduction. And thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. Last spring, I received a snail mail letter from John telling me that I would be this year's honoree. Quite frankly, I was astonished. John, I read the letter twice. I showed it to my husband. I said, David, do you think this is a mistake? Now, what could he say, right? I went online to look at prior year honorees, and I knew with absolute certainty it had to be a mistake. So I actually waited a few days to reply to give Stanford the chance to rescind in case it was. Thank you, John. I'm honored to be this year's honoree. It means so much to me because Stanford Business School has been the source of so much of my own growth. Tonight, I'd like to share my thoughts with you on why growth is so important for all of us, for individuals, for businesses, and for the economy. Stanford's motto, change lives, change organizations, change the world is, in fact, all about growth. Personally, we grow when we open ourselves to new opportunities. Professionally, we grow when we take on business risks. In finance, people who invest in growth are said to be long. People who invest in declines are said to be short. I am long on our ability to make the world a better place, and tonight I'm going to tell you some long stories, and I promise to keep them very short. Like many women of my generation, I was told growing up that I should limit my career aspirations. My parents' advice was that I should marry well and my husband would support me. My father suggested repeatedly that I get teaching credentials to fall back on, just in case my husband died. I adored my father, but that was not my plan. So I set my own course, and over the next 4 years, I had a series of jobs that were either underpaid, uninspiring, and unfortunately, more often than not, both. I remember picking up a magazine. The headline caught my attention. It read, "Are you stuck with a salary in the low teens?" I thought, if I had a salary in the low teens, I would be really rich. I clearly needed more options. Graduate school seemed like a great idea. Not knowing exactly what to do, I took the GRE, I took the LSAT, I took the GMAT. I scored highest on the GMAT, so I applied to business schools. Very planful. My father, a lifelong New Englander, was certain that there were no serious schools west of the Hudson River. He said people only go to California to surf. He was, as you might imagine, salivating over my acceptance to Harvard Business School. And I wanted Stanford. Can you see a pattern here? There was one not insignificant stumbling block. I was in my office in Washington, D.C., when I got a call from Gary Williams, then the Dean of Admissions of the business school here. He said, "I've waitlisted you pending this call. I wanted to understand more about your math background. You scored very high on the math part of the GMAT, but I couldn't find even one math course on your college transcript." Uh-oh, I was busted. I fell back on my verbal skills to explain away the lack of math. I changed the subject. I told him I really wanted to come to Stanford. Dean Williams, bless him, took a chance on me. He mailed me an acceptance that day. I arrived at Stanford and I learned that change lives isn't just a slogan, it begins in the classroom. I expect some of you have had an experience like I had early on. A professor would ask a question. I actually thought I knew the answer, but I knew that everyone in that class was smarter than I was, and they certainly had taken math in college. The first student answered the question, and the professor said, "Not quite." Another student answered the question, and the professor said, "Closer, but." Finally, with a bit of trepidation, I raised my hand, I answered the question, and the professor said, "Exactly right." It happened a few more times, and after that, I knew I would never again be afraid to speak up. Stanford changed the trajectory of my entire life. I could imagine unlimited possibilities, and a salary in the low teens was no longer my goal. Fast forward to 1985, I'm in the City Club in San Francisco, and I'm having lunch with a world-class leader, entrepreneur, and someone who would go on to change not only my future, but the future of banking. He invited me to join him to start First Republic. He offered me a role that did not exist, with a leap of faith that I would create enough value to justify his decision. And he paid me more than the low teens. That man is Jim Herbert, I am delighted he's here tonight. We have had a remarkable partnership for 30 years. Jim, thank you. I hope you are as pleased with the outcome as I have been. We started in San Francisco with a single office with $8.5 million in capital and 10 people, just like today's startups, minus the foosball tables, the yoga mats, and the hoodies. People often ask, how did we grow more than 20% a year for more than 30 years? What was the secret sauce? Well, we built a client-centric culture, we set very high standards, and we brought in truly outstanding people. Many of you are here tonight. You are the secret sauce, and it could not have happened without you. As a result, over half of our business comes from clients who do more with us as they grow, and another quarter comes from their direct referrals. For example, we made a loan to a young couple moving to San Francisco and buying their first home. Years later, that young attorney was the managing partner of one of the city's leading law firms, a firm we had tried in vain to bank for years. One morning, as we watched my son, Luke, and his son play soccer, he told me how pleased he was to be a client of First Republic. I told him we could provide the same level of service to his entire firm if they'd move their banking to us. Within a week, we landed the business. Thank you, Luke. Excellent client service has been the key to our success, and it may help if your kids play soccer. One Sunday morning, with my 6-year-old in tow, I delivered a loan commitment to a family so that they could buy their dream home. My son said, "Mom, why are we doing this on a Sunday morning when we could be building Legos?" I said, "Every bank can do this on Monday. Only we would do this on Sunday." That thinking permeates our entire organization. First clients, then Legos. Our successful relationship with Steve and General Atlantic began with a chance encounter on an airplane. I found myself seated next to another McKinsey colleague, Ed Cohen, who was the then head of General Atlantic. He was disappointed that GA had not invested in our IPO, and he asked for another chance. So a week later, Jim and I met Ed and Steve atop the rotating restaurant at LAX, where we negotiated GA's first investment as the lights of LA spun by. And as Steve said, this was a good investment. 20 years later, we sold First Republic to Merrill Lynch for 3.7 times book value. Now, to those of you who may not be as familiar with financial services, this is a really big number. It was clearly a home run for our shareholders. And then the financial crisis hit. Merrill Lynch had to sell out to Bank of America. We were about to be gobbled up by one of the largest banks in the world. Bank of America's assets, $2 trillion. First Republic's assets, $16 billion. This was a real David and Goliath story. Let me tell you a bit about David's side. The first challenge was to get Goliath's attention. They were obviously distracted. We finally had the chance to tell them, we want to buy our bank back. Our pitch was eloquent and our case was compelling. And they agreed to sell the bank, but not to us. That was the wrong response. So we refused to accept it. Finally, they agreed we could participate in the bid process, but the odds were clearly stacked against us. It was at Stanford at a GSB Advisory Council meeting in 2008. Steve was now the chairman of GA. During a break, he took me aside and said, obviously, you're going to buy First Republic back from Bank of America. We were one of your early investors. We won in the deal. He introduced us to Bill Ford, the CEO of GA, who together with Tom Barrack, the CEO of Colony Capital, would ultimately co-lead our management buyback. Things looked great. We made our bid. And then, once again, disaster struck. Bank of America chose another group. For the purpose of this story, I'll call them the Black Hats. These were truly bleak days and nights, but there was an occasional piece of optimism. The due diligence questions the Black Hats asked us made us think that there was a glimmer of hope that maybe this was not quite a done deal. And suddenly, we heard that the sale to the Black Hats might be stalled. This was our opportunity. Jim went to New York to meet with the Merrill executive, who confirmed that the sale was off. Bank of America would now swallow us whole. Integration would begin in 2 weeks. This was another response that we could not accept, so we asked for one more chance. Bank of America delivered an ultimatum with deadlines I am sure they never expected that we could meet. We had 3 days to negotiate a letter of intent. We had 14 days after that to execute a signed purchase and sale agreement. 17 days. When dealing with a giant bank, it can be impossible to get a mortgage loan in 17 days. Our team worked 24/7. We put together a broader group of buyers. They had less than 1 week to commit. Against all odds, we met Bank of America's deadline. We announced our buyback at book value. This was quite a trade. 3.7 is a big number. Less than book value is a very good number. This was a happily ever after story. That may be why the New York Times referred to us as the fairy tale bank. As growth is important to First Republic, it's critical to America. When the economy doesn't grow, everyone suffers. I lived in London at a time of deep recession. Everyone was concerned about how big a slice of the pie they would get. I knew that if I was here in America, we would be more concerned about how to grow the pie bigger. In some quarters, obviously not here, business has a bad reputation. That's because everyone doesn't succeed equally. We all know much more needs to be done. At the same time, business growth provides jobs, lowers costs, and invents the future nowhere more than here in San Francisco. I've been part of an organization with many extraordinary people, without whom our story would not have been. Without Stanford, my story would have been quite different. And critical to my story has been the support of my family. My husband, David, has always wanted me to be the very best version of myself. His sage advice has been invaluable, as has been his critique as he listened to the speech 100 times. He is my rock and my cheerleader and has been the source of so much joy. And thankfully, despite my parents' dire warning, he didn't die. I'd like to recognize my children, who are the source of so much happiness and joy. Nick, Luke, Cruz, Holland. They have put up with absences, crazy schedules, and would certainly have preferred more Lego building. Their support never wavered, and they found the bright side. Nick once said to a friend, "Thank goodness my mother is running First Republic. It would have been an absolute disaster if she had put all that energy into managing us." Thank you, Nick. Personal growth should never end. I'm back at Stanford as a fellow in the Distinguished Careers Institute, exploring the next chapters. Recently, I walked by the cornerstone, which read, "Dedicated to the things that haven't happened yet and the people who will dream them up." That is the spirit of the GSB that has always inspired me. Over the years, I've been fortunate to mentor young people, advise company founders, and help young women navigate successful careers and happy families. I share my life lessons with them, lessons that work for men and women. Among them are, pick the right partner. I certainly did. If you don't, it will never work. Staff your home like your business. If you don't, there are hundreds of small details that will derail you at every turn. Find peers and mentors. Success is much better as a team sport and much more likely. Aim high. Never be afraid to let people know what you expect. And raise your hand. Finally, attend soccer games and build Legos. I will close with a quote often attributed to Maya Angelou. "I have learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Tonight, you have made me feel very special. I will never forget it. Thank you very, very much for this honor. Thank you for being here with me tonight."